Hello and welcome to This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. On this week's presentation, we bring you highlights of Agriculture Minister's presentations at the recently concluded 37th session of the FAO Conference on Latin America and the Caribbean. At that presentation, Minister Mustafa spoke of all of the challenges that are being faced by regions such as ours. Climate change, of course, being one of the key presentation messages during the conference this past week. It ended on Friday, and of course, the Minister will be making his way back home to Guyana over this weekend to dive back into the work at hand here at home. All right, so we'll bring you highlights of those presentations, and of course, this program is brought to you in association with all the agencies of the Ministry of Agriculture. We will be back after these messages.
Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. In October 2016, the Kigali Amendment was adopted by all parties to the Montreal Protocol. This included Guyana. The Kigali Amendment brings the future production and the consumption of refrigeration gases under the Montreal Protocol through the phase-out of these ozone-depleting substances and their replacement with substances that are more environmentally friendly. To this end, the Hydromet Service has begun local preparations for Guyana's ratification and eventual compliance with the requirements of the Kigali Amendment. This will require legislative interventions, consultations with all stakeholders and the public at large about what changes will have to be made locally over the next few years. These consultations will begin shortly and will be advertised on all print and broadcast media platforms as well as on social media. For more information, visit the Hydromet website at hydromet.gov.gy. A message from the Hydromet Service, Ministry of Agriculture. The Hydromet Service Ministry of Agriculture is reminding owners of wells across the country that it is a legislative requirement to have their wells registered with the service, be it for domestic or commercial use. Getting your well registered is just a few clicks away. Visit the Hydromet website at hydromet.gov.gy and click on the Well Registration tab. Fill out the registration form there and then click the Send button. It's that simple. Be reminded that before undertaking the establishment of a new well, a license to do so must first be sought from the Hydromet Department as well as the Environmental Protection Agency. The process for so doing is explained on the department's website. Click on the link for well registration and follow the directions. A message from the Hydromet Service, Ministry of Agriculture.
During the opening session of this important conference, Guyana's Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa was elected to serve as vice chairman of the event and later joined the head table to chair several important sessions over the following days. The conference, which was held in Ecuador from March 28 to April 1, served as a moment in which member countries defined regional priorities to adapt and localize the FAO Strategic Framework 2022-2030 to the conditions of Latin America and the Caribbean. In his first presentation to those in attendance, the Agriculture Minister urged the putting in place of mechanisms that are easily accessible by vulnerable member states who are suffering the devastating impacts of climate change and other shocks to their economies.
All I want to say, we would like to see reference of a financial mechanism that make resources readily available and equally available for small adaptive and on-farm research targeting small farming communities and indigenous people. And today, when the world is being faced with serious problem of climate change, we have seen the devastation in some countries. The entire economy was wiped out because of climate change. I think we have come to a point where we have to make a decision what is necessary for us to move forward. My brother and colleague from St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have made a suggestion and a proposal to conduct marine resources survey that are very important for us because the blue and green economy in these parts of the world contributes significantly to poverty reduction. And today, climate change is causing serious problems within our countries in the small island developing states, especially in the Caribbean. We are so vulnerable to climate change that agriculture now, when we are now improving our agriculture capacity, it seems that we are taking risks because of climate change. And we cannot allow one and two countries to dictate the pace or the way forward for us. We are living in these times. We are living in these vulnerable places. We know what we are experiencing. And we are now appealing that the FAO must take strong measures to take a stand on these issues, because this issue depends, our future depends on it. So I want to support the plea that was made by St. Vincent, Trinidad and Tobago and St. Lucia, that we must move the process forward. My brother from the Bahamas, and I think that we should have a full-fledged discussion and prioritize the ideas in moving this process forward. Thank you.
In another presentation, the Agriculture Minister took the opportunity to highlight the level of sterling and unwavering support Guyana has been and continues to enjoy from the FAO, expressing his government's gratitude at the commitment displayed by FAO in partnering with Guyana in its development efforts in agriculture.
As a country, we have witnessed and experienced their unwavering commitment and effort to push Guyana towards achieving food security, to make sure our people have regular access to enough high-quality food to live active, healthy lives. We are in a race against time, ladies and gentlemen. There are 17 sustainable goals, and we have less than 2 decades to fulfill them if we hope to preserve the planet and the human population. The challenge is daunting, but with the regional commitments and support from the FAO, we are on the right path to meet our goals. Supported by our political commitment, the FAO has provided a great deal of support in strengthening local institutions, legal frameworks, and governance system needed to promote food security. I would like to highlight some of the areas that FAO has supported our country, Guyana, over the last years. Guyana's fishery sector is currently receiving support from the FAO to strengthen the strategic and regulatory framework for inland fisheries and aquaculture development to manage sustainable development of inland fisheries and aquaculture. The Aquaculture Bill and Fisheries Act developed under the project are being finalized under the FAO Sustainable Wildlife Management Program, while a strategy for the inland fisheries and aquaculture sector has been developed and finalized. In 2020-2021, the FAO extended support towards strengthening rice production, monitoring system, and investigating value chain opportunities in Guyana. This initiative has helped to improve institutional monitoring of rice production, while supporting the local development of a roadmap to diversify the country's rice value chain. And the issue of data, FAO has continued to support Guyana to implement agricultural statistical instruments for the integration of the SDGs in national planning. In 2021, a statistical needs assessment was done and will continue with a strategic plan for agriculture and rural statistics, which will serve to strengthen our methodologies for the monitoring of our SDGs indicators. FAO has also supported our fisheries industry through the provision of technical guidance and a study on low catches for marine fisheries. Guyana has also been a part of several multi-country projects, namely, Guyana, as well as our eastern neighbor Suriname, experienced severe flooding in 2021, and this showed the vulnerability of our food system. Almost 90% of the agriculture sector in Guyana during last year's flood were devastated. The FAO provided emergency response and early recovery support to smallholder farmers affected by the 2021 floods in Guyana and Suriname. Since the launch of the project in 2021, farmers have benefited from emergency flood relief distributions. Farmers have also received agricultural and livestock inputs arising out of this, a special mapping exercise of the beneficiary in collaboration with the ADRM specialists using GIS is ongoing to support the capacity of the Ministry of Agriculture to assist farmers to recover from future emergencies. The FAO continued to work on value chain development for commodities such as cherry, brackish water shrimp, sheep, corn, and soya. These are being strengthened by developing a medium to long-term strategic plan for the industry, increasing investments, and increasing market access for farmers. To continue work on regional food system, the FAO has been assessing national food control systems to enable enhanced food security in the sub-region. 64 Guyanese focal persons have benefited from training to conduct the assessment of food control systems. The assessment is currently ongoing with an expected completion date in June 2022. Guyana, through the FAO, is also embarking upon the disposal of obsolete pesticides, including POP's promotion of alternative and strengthening pesticide management, to promote the sound management of pesticides through the life cycle in ways that leads to the maximization of significant adverse effect on human health and the global environment. Earlier this month, Guyana became involved in a newly approved project that focuses on regional e-agriculture for the Caribbean to assist in capacity building and to create an enabling environment for the adaptation of e-agriculture solutions for our farming communities. Clearly, the FAO has really been a critical source of support in many countries in diverse areas surrounding agriculture. We all are indeed fortunate to have such an entity to guide and support us through these trying times. I would like to close by stressing the importance of sustainable development. Let us be mindful of our roles in this regard and continue to focus our effort so that we can live in a safer, fairer, and more peaceful world. Mr. Chairman, as it stands today, Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean are mapping strategies to ensure that we have food security so that the population in this part of the world could be guaranteed, because we are working on many fronts to enhance our food capacity building and to reduce the cost of production. I would like to commend and thank the FAO and look forward for their continued support. Thank you very much.
In endorsing the proposals made by other speakers at the conference, Minister Mustafa urged that member countries take urgent notice of the fact that the average age of our traditional farmers is advanced and that special focus must be placed on getting our youths involved in the sector.
But most of all, as a body, and as countries in the region that are addressing hunger and trying to achieve the sustainable development goal, we have to ensure that we take action that will preserve this very, very important sector. And when we talk about agricultural research, challenges and opportunities, we in Guyana, we have been trying to ensure that we implement measures so that we can continue and try to be very innovative to bring people together. And when you look around the region, and this is a fact, and I think that this is a general fact around the region, when you look around the region, you find middle-aged and most senior citizens across the region are involved in agriculture. What are we doing to involve our young people into the agriculture sector? Many young people who would have graduated in various agricultural courses from the university in various territories, they are not coming into agriculture because they find agriculture is a menial job, a job that people who dropped out of school, people who are old, a labor-intensive job, so to speak. So we have that opportunity to involve them in terms of bringing them and giving them the opportunities, and how we can do that. There are many ways we can do research, we can improve innovation, and at the same time give them the opportunities to come into agriculture. For example, recently in Guyana, we would have done an analysis, and majority of graduates from the University of Guyana and the Guyana School of Agriculture only doing the job behind the desk, that is doing the theory rather than doing the practical work. And so we have launched, the President, His Excellency, President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali has launched a program that target these young people, bring them into the agriculture sector, bring them to do practical work in the agriculture sector. And as a result of that, we have now launched a program called the Agriculture Innovation Entrepreneur Program. This program encompasses where young people now, we are building hundreds of shade houses where we are now introduce high-value crops like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. Those are high-value crops that the country import on a regular basis. For example, when you look at the importation for last year alone, Guyana would have imported almost $2.6 billion. These are the opportunities that we are giving the young people now to take that slot, to provide that kind of food security for the country, and at the same time reduce the food import bill of the country and the region. So I think as we are talking about opportunities, these are the things we have to ensure that we do. So generally, Mr. Chair, we support those proposals, but I would like to see specific measures that we can involve our young people in so that we can preserve and have food security in the agriculture sector in the world. Thank you.
Commenting on the presentation on climate change during Friday morning's session, Minister Mustafa described the document as very comprehensive and has the makings of a very robust and practical strategy on climate change.
Climate change exacerbates hunger in the world. Higher temperature causes a decline in crop yields, which threatens food security and contributes to malnutrition. Since much of Guyana's population depends on increased agricultural productivity, this poses a serious risk for our population. I agree with the pillars of global level, national or country level, and at the farm level. I must say we have been supported by the FAO at each of these levels to support the government's program on climate change. I will add that we must have a regional context considered and include as well, identifying the weaknesses at the regional scale due to their similarity can be beneficial. The UN is attempting to counter the harm posed to hunger due to changing weather pattern. The FAO has assisted the Guyanese government in developing a plan for risk management in the agricultural sector. Similarly, the Guyanese government plans to create opportunities for carbon mitigation through carbon sequestration and biofuel production. This is aimed at contributing to efforts at lessening the effect of climate change, even as it expands agricultural capacity. Further, the Republic of Guyana also aims to combat climate change through low-carbon development in the following ways: developing high-potential low-carbon subsectors and industry, drought management, water conservancies, drip irrigation systems, drought bulletin, agronomist practices, food management, flood management, mitigation like pump station, natural flood early warning system, weather forecasts, dredging of fields and waterway, practicing climate resilience agriculture, especially focusing on mangrove and coastal ecosystem, restoration, integrated pest management, crops rotation, etc. As the above interventions are made, the following challenges must be addressed. And here, Mr. Chair, we were asked the question, what are some of the guidance that we can give to the FAO in crafting this strategy to be practical? And we have to take into consideration the challenges that we are faced with and that must be addressed. Large amounts of funds is required to support adaptation initiative. Limited access to improved climate technologies, often due to limited access to finance, and limited research and development in suitable adaptation initiative. Guyana welcomes and supports this document, but wishes to reiterate it that explicit discussion mention needs to be made of a financial mechanism, and that is the part I want to talk about, identifying the best way FAO can provide assistance. And FAO could provide assistance to this part of the region, the Caribbean, by a financial mechanism that makes resources readily available for small, adaptive, and
Guyana's Agriculture Minister, however, urged that the strategy should also include the regional context, noting that Guyana has been preparing itself for the challenges of climate change, with the FAO playing a significant role in the development of these strategies.
To achieve better production, we must ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns through efficient and inclusive food and agriculture supply chains at the local, regional, and global levels. Better production means ensuring resilience and sustainable agri-food system in the face of climate change and its impact on the environment. Since food and nutrition security of our countries depend on a sustainable and productive agriculture sector. To improve food security, the efficient cultivations and production of traditional and non-traditional primary agricultural product and increased production and diversification of processed agricultural product emphasis has to be placed on higher and more advanced degrees of commercialization, embracing specialized production, and the increased importance of research and development and use of technology. Noting the agriculture sector vulnerability to climate change and negative impact that it can have on food security, we must be innovative in our effort to ensure better production. Our country, the government of Guyana, have been encouraging and investing in innovations with a focus on productivity improvements driven by the research and development strengthening, climate resilience, advancing the use of technology, and intensifying improved land and water management practices. Productivity improvements are driven by research and development in the following area. High-yielding rice varieties. A new high-yielding rice varieties, GRDB 16, with a potential of 9 tons per hectare, was released. This variety of rice has benefits such as higher yield, only 110 days to maturity, and it can germinate in water of up to 9 inches. And I want to say here that we have moved with this variety, moved the national average of 39 bags per acre to just around 60 bags per acre. That's the way we have involved research. Biofortified rice. There have been very successful trials of biofortified rice, which is intended as a sustainable, cost-effective means of delivering target micronutrition to the population that have weak access to such diet. The biofortified rice provides the target nutrition zinc to consumer that has high market value. There is, however, the cost of zinc fertilizer that has to be addressed. One possible solution is subsidizing the cost. And here in this rice, we are growing the supplement of zinc in it so that it will be very healthy and very nutritious. And I think that this will be one of our country is one of the first in this part of the hemisphere that is doing that. Together with ICA is helping us. Livestock, Guyana is making strides into improve research and technology in the livestock subsector by refocusing effort in the research station and developing desired genetic material for livestock species. Public-private sector partnership and involvement and support is being encouraged in this area. Innovation in climate resilience are as follows. Shade houses. Shade house farming is an innovation being utilized as an adaptive strategy to the threats of climate change, such as flooding, droughts, and increased pests, all contributing to enhanced productivity. In 2021, 150 shade houses were constructed with the National Research, Agriculture Research and Extension Institute, providing material at subsidized costs to farmers. Technical support was also provided for design and shade house management. In 2022, in excess of 200 shade houses is targeted for construction. The government as well recently launched an agriculture and innovation entrepreneurship program where 300 shade houses will be constructed with a focus on the efficient and sustainable production of niche vegetables, high-risk commodities such as cauliflower, broccoli, carrot. This project targets youth with BSc and certificate in agriculture. We also have embarked on hydroponics. Flood early warning system we have started. We have had those in our budget. We have also started innovation in digital solution, where we are using drone technology to help us to improve our production and productivity. Land and water management for better production with the impact of climate change, and you all would have known last year Guyana suffered devastation in the flood. Almost the entire country was affected, and the entire agriculture sector, almost 90% of the sector was devastated with that flood. Because of that, now we are putting more infrastructural development in the water management. We are building pump stations. We are rehabilitating canals and build new canals so that we can drain Guyana effectively. Unlike Ecuador, that is above sea level, about almost 6,500 feet above sea level, we are below 5 feet below the sea level. So you can imagine the challenge that we have to drain our land with gravity flow.
During the week-long conference, Guyana's Agriculture Minister joined the head table as chair for several sessions in keeping with his election as vice chairman of the important regional event. The Hydromet Service Ministry of Agriculture is reminding owners of wells across the country that it is a legislative requirement to have their wells registered with the service, be it for domestic or commercial use. Getting your well registered is just a few clicks away. Visit the Hydromet website at hydromet.gov.gy and click on the Well Registration tab. Fill out the registration form there and then click the Send button. It's that simple. Be reminded that before undertaking the establishment of a new well, a license to do so must first be sought from the Hydromet Department as well as the Environmental Protection Agency. The process for so doing is explained on the department's website. Click on the link for well registration and follow the directions. A message from the Hydromet Service, Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, that's all the time we have on this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. Until next time then, be good to yourselves and to each other.